welcome back everyone to Hidden Chasms. This is part 5, so for now we have reached the final part. I'm saying for now because I have ideas for bonus parts, oopsie. But anyway, I hope you like this series. I hope you will enjoy this final part. And yeah, let's go! Atsumu spent the weekend with his brother and Suna. It was pleasant. For the following 2 days, he allowed himself to banish any thoughts of the past and worries concerning the future from his mind. It only came back to him briefly when he received a message from Sakusa on Saturday that read, "Forgive me for being so careless. Take your time. We can talk when you come home." He took a shaky breath after reading it. The setter had half a mind to go on a tirade for Sakusa taking fault when he shouldn't, but the small flames of anger that arose from him taking blame that he shouldn't were suffocated by the dreadful reminder of what happened. He didn't have the strength yet to go back to his old self, scolding his boyfriend for being unkind to himself. Instead, he settled for replying with a simple "okay," hoping that it would ease his worries at least a little bit. He knew it was far from enough, but the thought of talking everything through made him shudder. He doubted that he would be able to do that, so he banished it from his mind. For the following 2 days, he just focused on eating his brother into bankruptcy, playing video games with Suna and arguing about volleyball, as well as feeding the middle blocker with blackmail material whenever he and Atsumu started bickering. He also noticed time and time again Suna smiling softly at his phone, occasionally showing the messages to Atsumu but never Atsumu, which was very suspicious in his humble opinion. He pouted whenever they'd exclude him like that, earning himself his twins' teasing. All in all, the time spent away went well. He managed to recover, only overcome by dread once more when he prepared for practice on Monday. He felt bad that he hadn't contacted Sakusa throughout the whole time, aside from a one-worded message, and now they'd have to pretend that all was fine. In his nervousness, Atsumu arrived too early by far. He was out of the changing rooms before anyone else had even entered and opted to start with some warm-ups and stretches. Soon, Shoyo joined him and they practiced some serves before moving on to spikes. Sakusa entered shortly after, his expression grim and his gaze focused on the ground. He clenched his water bottle tightly enough for Atsumu to worry about the sturdy material. "Hey, Tsumu, do you know what's going on with Amikun today?" Hinata tried and as usually failed to be quiet. The spiker's head snapped up and within seconds the dark, black eyes had found his. For a moment, time appeared frozen as Atsumu took in the emotions flashing over Sakusa's face. There was surprise, turned into worry. Guilt reflecting in the deep ink-colored pools, and longing. His lips parted like he wanted to say something, one hand hovering in the air half extended toward him as though he was reaching out to Atsumu, but didn't quite commit to the action. He looked so lost, it broke the setter's heart. That apparently didn't communicate on his face though, because Sakusa lowered his hand and gazed again, as though he decided against it. "Did something happen between—" "Excuse me for a moment." He handed the volleyball over to Hinata and closed the distance to Sakusa with determined steps. This was still his boyfriend who did nothing wrong and didn't deserve to suffer because Atsumu had some trust issues. "Hey." He approached him hesitantly and tried for his typical bright smile, though he didn't need to see it in Sakusa's eyes to know that it was off. "How are you feeling?" Upon closer inspection, Sakusa had dark circles under his eyes and looked pale, even by his standards. When Sakusa's eyes wandered lower, because he didn't want to be faced with his concern again, he noticed how red his hands appeared. The skin had cracked in some places and a few small band-aids were wrapped around his fingers. Immediately guilt overcame him and he looked away. "Shouldn't I ask you that?" "I guess." They stood in awkward silence for a moment, only interrupted as more and more of their teammates filled the hall. Atsumu took a deep breath. "I'm sorry about what happened." Judging by the way Sakusa's eyes narrowed, this wasn't the reply he wanted. Atsumu sighed, but he knew this wouldn't be that easy. He for sure would have more questions if their roles were reversed. "After practice, come over to my place for tea and then we can talk." He offered a small smile and Sakusa nodded slowly, straightening his back and giving him a wary smile. He looked like he wanted to say something else, but by the time he opened his mouth to speak, the words "Mion" already called for them for official warm-ups. Later. Later. Sakusa agreed. Atsumu was nervous. That might be an understatement. They walked home together after practice, yet not a word was exchanged. The silence weighed heavy between them. Their relationship was still so new that upon being met with a quiet, he feared this might be too heavy a burden to carry together this early on. He feared this would break them apart. The thought alone is almost scarier than confessing to his past and explaining his reaction from a couple days prior. However, when they stepped inside and Atsumu started the tea he had promised his ace, one look was enough to realize there was no reason to worry. Sakusa automatically went to the cupboards and picked Atsumu's favorite cup if he sought comfort, as well as the one the setter gifted them for their 2 weeks anniversary. At the time, Sakusa just rolled his eyes and said nobody celebrated that, but smiled to himself as he took a sip from his newly acquired cup. And he thought Atsumu wouldn't see it, but he did. That, and so much more, all the little gestures Sakusa attempted to hide. They were casual, easy, like there was nothing more effortless to him than incorporating Atsumu into his routines. He knew that it wasn't, but somehow the spiker made it look like the most natural thing in the world to simply know. Just now, he pulled Atsumu's favorite tea, which actually varied a lot depending on circumstances, from a drawer. It coaxed the setter to smile. Somehow, this was all he needed to know, that they would be fine. "Thank you." What for?" He still didn't quite meet his gaze and instead started to fumble with the string attached to the tea bags. "Just being you, and being here with me, for me." The Raven gulped, his shoulders tense. "I seem to have messed that up a lot recently." Atsumu took a deep breath. He knew he couldn't avoid the topic, but part of him wished they could just forget about it and move on. He motioned for them to sit down at the table as he took the now filled cups into his hands. Sakusa followed his example. He pushed the ace's cup over to the taller and sat down opposite him. For a moment, they both simply watched the steam rising from the cups as the water changed color. It was as if Atsumu was tongue-tied, while Sakusa was too scared to say the wrong thing again. What happened that day wasn't your fault.
You said that before.
Not to him directly, but yes, he did. And I mean it. You couldn't know.
Couldn't know what? I don't understand what happened.
Sakusa tried to keep his voice leveled and calm for Atsumu's sake, undoubtedly. He didn't want to pressure him, but there was a certain urgency underlining it. A plea to make sense of everything. Sakusa hated being kept in the dark. To be honest, I'm not sure I can tell you quite yet. The spiker tried not to let his disappointment show, but Atsumu picked up on it regardless. It's not that I don't trust you.
It's okay if you don't. We haven't been close for long.
Cold shivers ran down Atsumu's spine as he saw the reflection of an old pain in the dark eyes. This was how he saw himself, and the blonde hated it. When he noticed him fidgeting with his band-aids, he quickly reached over the table and held his hands to stop him and make him look up. No, Kiyomi, look at me. I trust you. I trust you a lot, and I wouldn't lie about that or say it if I wasn't sincere. Sakusa's eyes widened a fraction, and this time it was Atsumu who averted his gaze first as he continued. The reason behind it, close to no one knows. Only Samu and Suna, because they were there when it happened, and Ma. I can't really talk about it just yet.
It was recent then?
He nodded slowly, struggling to swallow properly. Not as in the past couple of months, or even half a year, but yes, fairly recent. He took a shaky breath to calm himself and felt his tension ease as Sakusa gave him a reassuring squeeze. He smiled a little wobbly, but genuine nonetheless.
I understand, but Atsu, I just want to make sure I'll never hurt you like that again. You'll have to tell me. I couldn't forgive myself if I did.
I already told you, it's not your fault.
Still. So I'll just never use pet names again.
At that, he laughed. Nuh-uh. Don't think you're getting out of being romantic so easily. He grinned a bit more steadily. A small chuckle escaped Sakusa's lips as well. A huge burden seemed to have been lifted from his shoulders as the setter started behaving like himself again.
Okay, so just not that one. Any other? Or anything else I shouldn't do?
Nah, as long as you don't hit me, all is good. The moments the words left his mouth, he knew he had said too much. Sakusa froze. He stared at him in utter shock and seemed to struggle to comprehend his words. It was meant as a joke, but Atsumu knew himself that he was only half joking. And for someone knowing him as well as Sakusa apparently did, to the point he knew which tea he preferred when it showed.
Forget I said that. Atsumu, I would never...
I know. He was quick to grab his hand tighter, but his gaze was fixated on the table. I know you would never. Please, just forget it. He half expected more questions. How could he escape this after letting that slip? His stomach dropped as he heard Sakusa getting up and felt his hands retreat. He noticed how broken Atsumu was and didn't want to stay any longer. He felt a familiar pressure assembling behind his eyes. He had suppressed the entire time, trying to gain distance from the things forcing him to his knees.
When he felt a hand on his back, he flinched, but immediately regretted it when he realized it was Sakusa. To make up for it, he tugged at his sleeve, pulling him closer and signaling that it was okay. After assuring himself of the setter's consent, Sakusa wrapped his arms around him gently and rubbed soothing circles into his back. It's okay. You don't have to explain, and I'll do everything to make you feel safe around me. No one will hurt you as long as you're with me. Least of all, me. A sob escaped his throat and Atsumu clung to him more tightly. If I ever slip up like that again, just tell me, beloved. A wet chuckle resonated in Atsumu's chest at the new pet name. He loved it. He reached up to kiss the soft spot beneath his jaw and could feel it warm as Sakusa blushed excessively. You still get so flustered when showing affection. It's cute. He snuggled closer, choosing to ignore Sakusa's barely believable huff of protest. Thank you so much for watching to the end. It means the world to me. It's also really good for the algorithm. And you know what else is? Leaving a like and subscribing if you liked the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, I mentioned I have a couple ideas for a bonus part of like Atsumu being a bit more confronted with what happened and then talking about it. Do you want me to do that? Because I can do that. I plan to end it here, but my brain went astray again. Also tell me your favorite quote on the pinned comment, and as always, a special thanks goes out to my Nidnekos who support this channel so much. If you are not a Nidneko and consider wanting to support me in the same way, click on the join button under this video to see what perks you can get for as little as €2 a month. Woohoo! I'm good at my job. Here are more videos, please click them if you like my content, and now I hope you have a wonderful and amazing day. Bye!
Grow hard about what you want to be. Step 4. Everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.